Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or ideally a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have 24,000 ETH, highest CryptoPunk sale ever achieved by a flash loan as a marketing stunt, not officially recognized by the Lava Labs website, but we'll discuss what's going on there. Next, Grayscale announces an AAVE fund providing exposure to decentralized finance. And finally, COBIE is up 500% in 24 hours after Ansem tweets, up to a $10 million FDV. Meme coins still alive and kicking. Pretty violent price action there. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs in general, and a discussion on why JP Morgan analysts think the debasement trade lifting Bitcoin and gold will continue. Some interesting information coming there, so stay tuned for that. Today we have a full house. Legendary, Sam and Brett are in the co-host seats. We're ready to get into it, but just before we do, just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice, because we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Friday, it's the 4th of October. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
That's unexpected. Hasn't happened in a long time when we have the full house that you go to me first, but I kind of could feel it that you're going to do that today. I feel decently well. I'm 1 year older than yesterday. That 1 year older than 2 days ago. And
false. You are 2 years older than 2 days ago.
Aging sucks, though. I got sick on Monday. I mean, aging is it's the only way not to die is to age. But I got sick on Monday. I felt better on Tuesday, and ever since it's downhill again. And I do think that's a sign of aging. I used to recover in like 1-2 days from getting sick, but now I'm like fighting for a week, and that's annoying.
You need to get zinc. I'm in a state of perpetual fear of getting sick from all the foreign shit that I have around me, because I'm like just traveling all over Southeast Asia. So I just have a huge bottle of zinc, and I'm just chugging it like every single day.
Just add to your juice diet, Legendary, which is full. Your fridge is still full of juice, I suspect. Just add a bunch of vitamins and minerals, I guess. Is that something that you would consider?
I mean, that's kind of the point of the juices. Like when I drink the green thing that I often drink on the show, that is like basically all-in-one vitamin smoothie kind of thing. But it's the age. It's really what's going on. 33 is downhill only.
Very. I can see that. Something I'm a bit confused about is with all the numerical acumen on stage, people seem confused about my joke at the start. I said, Legendary said he's 1 year older than he was yesterday. And I said, false. No, 2 days ago. I said, false. You're 2 years older than you were 2 days ago. Is that not correct? Sam, you're an accountant here. Come on. Legendary is literally 1 day older than he was yesterday.
I was trying to work out whether you're thinking in terms of like if you're in your 34th year already back then, and maybe there was some play on there, but I actually can't figure it out.
Am I just...
He's saying 2 days. He's trying to say 2 days ago he was 3. He was 1 year older or 1 year younger, and then a year from then is actually 2 years ago. So that's what he's saying. It's
I see what you mean.
Difference.
All I'm saying is that we are all 1 day older than we were yesterday.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Can we just chalk it up to a leap year? We'll just say it was a leap year because no one actually understands that stuff anyways. We'll just say it was a leap year joke, and then you're smart.
It wasn't a leap year joke though. Funky, welcome to the stage, my friend. Come in here. What am I doing something wrong?
No, I don't even want to comment on that. I just want to actually correct all you youngins. As a 49-year-old in the room, 30s is peak life. Like, you've gotten over the dumbass stage of your 20s. You know what you want out of life. You're in good physical health. I don't want to hear that talk, Legendary. You're on the ascent, baby. None of that.
I can vouch.
My counterpoint is that once you turn 27 as a man, the testosterone level goes down. It goes down only until the day that you die. So this is my reasoning for
testosterone's a weakness, Legendary. It's all mental.
This sounds like some Benjamin Button shit, except changing genders.
Interesting. Look, interesting numerical statistics we've got here. Legendary, we've got to break you out of this funk, I suspect. Fortunately, we've got some big news to discuss today. To get into it, as always, let's start with the price action on the majors. We've got Bitcoin is fairly flat, actually, 61.3K in the past 24 hours. ETH is also flat at 2.3K, just under 2.4, and Solana is just up 1% at $139. Just on the meme side of things, so you know where that stuff is going in comparison. Pepe is up 1%, Dogecoin is up 3%, WIF is up 8%, Bonk is down 2%, Popcat is up 1%, Mog is up 6%. So a little bit of similar, a little bit of a recovery there as well. But obviously, they were hit a bit harder in the last 7 days. Getting into the headlines themselves, we have the 24,000 ETH highest CryptoPunk sale ever achieved by Flash Loan as a marketing stunt. So not really officially recognized, but we'll explain how that went down in the last 24 hours. Got Grayscale announcing an AAVE fund, providing exposure to decentralized finance, which I think is pretty interesting because people keep talking about a DeFi renaissance. So maybe we'll speak a little bit to that. And then finally, COBIE is up 500% in 24 hours after Ansem tweets, up to $10 million FDV. Some of these coins are still really moving. We're still in a market where some of these things are really getting sent. Maybe we'll just reflect a little bit on that and what's going on there. Some notable sales from around the space. The bearer chain ecosystem is still moving. A bond bear selling for 33 ETH. CryptoPunk VL selling for 31.5 ETH, and a Boo Bear, one of the lower ones in the bearer chain ecosystem, selling for 15 ETH. Pretty hefty price tags there in the bearer chain ecosystem. That's the headlines and the price action. Legendary, should we go to our NFT marketplace partner Mintify to see what's going on that side?
Absolutely, let's do it. I've been thinking that given this week, we probably 3 times have included something from bearer chain. If that shouldn't become part of my daily roundup as well at some point. But for now, let's take a look at the more established JPEGs. Bored Apes are up 1%, 10.84 ETH floor for them. Pudgies are down another percent, 9.9 ETH floor for them. Yesterday, they fell under the 10 ETH floor and didn't manage to recover from that, but did slide down a bit further. Azukis, on the other hand, are having quite a green day. They're up 3%, 5.35 ETH floor for them. Similar situation for Miladies, up 3%, 2.92 ETH floor for them. And another collection I wanted to touch on, because we haven't checked with them in a while, are the Kanpai Pandas. They obviously had that huge drop-off from 1 ETH, but they did manage to climb back a fair bit. They're up 8% over the last 24 hours. They are up, I think it was 16, 17% actually over the last 7 days. However, if we go back further over the last 60 days, they're obviously still down 50%, but it seems like they managed to slowly but steadily recover and climb back up.
Excellent context there. Just another quick point on the ordinals side before I make a point on Kanpai Pandas. On the ordinal side, there was a bunch of movement in the last 24 hours as well. We had Bitcoin Puppets moving up 25% to a 0.13 Bitcoin floor. Node Monks also up 10% to a 0.18 Bitcoin floor. Bitcoin Frogs up 17% as well to 0.043. So reasonable amount of activity on that side as well, which is interesting to see. Just on the Kanpai Pandas thing, I feel like this has kind of gone under the radar. Maybe people aren't writing about it because it was a little bit controversial, at least at one point. Obviously, one of the reasons why they went down so significantly was because of the founder Icebag's alleged involvement in that what was it called? Restore the Republic.
I like how you said one of the reasons. Like, dude, it was a nuclear missile that hit the collection. It was the reason.
Just giving myself some optionality in case anyone comes back to this. Potentially, the main reason was because of involvement in the RTR coin. And then he kind of went missing for a while, right? I think a lot of people lost money on it. Allegedly, that stuff.
I did see a tweet where he said he has receipts and like it was like a week or two ago. He said, I have receipts and like it'll come out eventually. And that was it.
I have a feeling there might be some legal stuff going on. I obviously can't speak to those details, especially when a lot of money is lost. It's very difficult to comment with any certainty. But just so people know, like he seems to be back just on the timeline, talking about stuff, talking about Kanpai Pandas, talking about other stuff, and also even quote
with a rebrand.
RTR. So like they had a conversation the other day. So this was 2 days ago. Join our powerhouse lineup for the debut space tonight. There was Donald Trump Jr., Icebags, and a couple of other people, kind of Trump affiliated either organizations or people having a conversation. So I don't know. Is that all just water under the bridge and we carry on as normal? I don't know. There's been no concrete information for me, but just so people know, there has been a re-emergence in some respect. Brad, did you have anything else to say on that? Because you seem to have known a bit
No, I
about
was
it.
just looking at his name. He said Josh Bags, right? So he's, his Ice Bags and then Bags. Now he's actually got his name out there, I guess, as a way to like, I don't know, try to show he's a trusted person or should be trusted in some way. I think like revealing your name is kind of a signal for that. Like to try like, oh, look, I'm doxxed, guys. I'm trustable now. Yeah, I mean, TBD on whether it plays out, but I just noticed that.
Interesting. Okay, well, definitely wanted to bring that to people's attention because yeah, that was like a really big thing that happened for a period of time, and maybe it's kind of getting smoothed over at the moment as we speak. So okay, that's on my side. Legendary, what about on your side? What are you seeing? What are you noticing? Before we get into the bigger discussions today, because we've got some interesting stuff on JP Morgan analysis on Bitcoin. We've got the usual headlines, got a bit of a weekly summary, thinking about trends happening. Anything that you're noticing or thinking about?
I've been thinking about the meme side a bit more, kind of from the perspective that we had the headline yesterday, massive pump in 90 minutes. We have another headline today. There's still obviously the up and down in the majors, and we try to make sense of that. What's the impact of geopolitical escalations in the short term? 1 day, 2 days, BTC goes down. 60 days, BTC is up. And I was asking myself, do I basically rather want to swing trade BTC around geopolitical events, which is something that I haven't really done before, or do I rather want to like take distance from that and go and spend time in the meme coin trenches and like acknowledge those opportunities that are there, aside from buying my modeng and stuff like that. And I came to like a pretty strong answer for myself that I just don't want to be glued to the screen 24/7 like I used to be in 2020, 2021, 2022. I was trading JPEGs, but I do want to try something new, and I actually want to try to swing trade BTC a bit around the geopolitical stuff, because it's something that I've been following more intensely either way, as I'm spending that time already. So why not try to trade it at least with a small bag, but get the real experience, get the actual profits and losses in, and see what happens.
I like it. That'll be nice to kind of cover and check in with you how you're doing. If you actually think about it from a price volatility perspective, we've been range bound for a hell of a long time, right? And so if we keep bouncing from 55 to 67 to 58 to 66 to, there's like ample room here to just buy, even if you weren't going to use leverage, just buy spot, hold, sell it again. Like, obviously people think we're going to go up into the right in the long period of time, but there's a reasonable, there has been at least a reasonable opportunity to just keep selling for 10 to 20% gains probably on Bitcoin. So that's an interesting point. Sammy, what about you? Are you noticing anything in particular? I know you're kind of spread out across a few chains and got a few things coming up, but what's on your mind at the moment?
So just going into the Bitcoin puppet news, like I'm kind of noticing a theme with collections pumping. So when Abstract announces an elite Chad roll, they seem to pump. So it happened with Doodles, it happened with a bunch of other projects as well. So I think for me, it's like, okay, well, there's obviously some interest there in getting some exposure to Abstract. I'm just trying to decide whether I want to run Blast back on Abstract when it comes. So, and I probably will, but I just don't know whether I'll do it with the same degree of attention. That's the only thing.
Okay, key question for you then, Sam. What are the key things you're looking for from Abstract to prove to you that like this is the place that you want to double down your attention? And there's a couple of things, right, that you're a valuable person for them. A, you've got capital to kind of input and provide liquidity. So that's always one aspect, but sometimes that can be a bit mercenary. We go wherever the best deals are. But also we produced a hell of a lot of content. For example, with Blast, we like really covered the ecosystem because we were genuinely interested. So what are you looking for from Abstract to prove to you that, yes, you want to put not only your capital, but also your attention and content to go into them? What do chains need to do to prove to you that you want to participate?
Well, I think Blast has set the benchmark in terms of like a really good incentive structure. So I'm kind of waiting to see how they come out with their incentive structure and whether it's similar in terms of that Blast Gold, whatever they call it. But that points, I mean, the whole points meta in the past has been like, it's been done to death. So I'm just looking to see how they do it, how they come to market with it when they launch mainnet. I do think that projects like On-Chain Heroes and some of the other ones that they're announcing on the go, And I think, was it Jonah mentioned that he was really impressed with the team and what he's going to potentially bring some games to Abstract. And having grown up with games, I think that could be an interesting angle. Like I don't know, like Cambria, for instance, has gone to Ronin, like they're going multi-chain. So will they deploy on Abstract as well? Like, are there going to be games I'm actually going to want to play? And will that attract me? And I think now I'm probably going more towards, are these protocols or games or products I'd actually use? And if they're interesting, I'll write content organically about it anyway. So I think that's something that I'm looking out for. But obviously, if they have some sort of incentive structure as well that rewards those for providing liquidity or activity on their chain, then I'll probably dig down into that as well.
Nice. So liquidity, incentives, and get like quality gaming infrastructure and products. So okay, that's pretty interesting. Brad, what about with you? Since we're going round and we're going to go into like a little bit of a weekly trends roundup in a second as well. We haven't heard from you in a while. What's your kind of catching your attention? Anything on your mind? Anything you're focusing on?
You know me, I lean nerd. So for me,
what do we got?
For me, one was the Eigenlayer drop. I'm actually still watching that a little bit because I did get a decent allocation for just doing educational content. Awesome.
How did you think that's gone, by the way, then? Like a bit of the
for
FUD
me or for the ecosystem?
We reported on a bit of the FUD yesterday. There was the staking, the staking of locked tokens, which allegedly investors are allowed to sell. How are you making sense of the price action and that behavior and anything else?
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty complex protocol. So sure. I do think it's misunderstood largely, but also there's a lot of FUD going both ways. And traditionally, right, airdrops happen, everyone sells, and then whatever. So I think the upside of the protocol relative to the pricing right now, I'm still just holding on to my airdrop, and I think it'll be a typical little cup pattern at the start. Everyone drops, it'll come up a little bit. Whether that sustains up for an extended duration, probably not. It probably spikes and then bleeds, but
that's already up 7% in the last 24 hours as well. I think it's already maybe started to.
Yep, go me. I'm rich.
Sorry, carry on.
No, you're good. So I'm just watching that since I got that, and obviously because it was my allocation was based around educational content, I'm kind of leaning into that with a few other things that I'm doing, and trying to see if maybe we can turn a meta into that, which would be awesome. And then honestly, just more, again, educational content, nerd fight stuff. No one's going to understand it, but talking about data availability and like the different providers. So Celestia versus EigenDA versus whatever. I just did a stream yesterday on base rollups with the people that are launching, like Gwyneth Tycho and Rice and some other L2s that are doing some stuff. So it's not around trading. You're not going to make money on it, but for me, it's technically interesting, and I think it'll long-term lead to, hopefully, value accrual to the ecosystem in ETH specifically. So trying to be in the trenches on the actual debate and drive discourse.
Well, whilst I know what you mean when you say that you can't make money on it immediately, I would definitely lean in towards the idea, and I think you would too, which is like the knowledge that you gain is what propels you forward in order to be able to make some type of decision later on to know that something is good and then make money on it with the knowledge. So like, even though I'm not the most technical person, being able to assess Eigenlayer whenever I did and just like feel that this was an important thing, and then you maybe dive in a bit more, and then people like you write interesting threads about it, that puts me in a really helpful position to be able to make the allocation that I make to the protocol whenever I did. So I still think that stuff is super valuable. One final question before we get into the weekly trends is, do you think, so the this is one of the things that maybe people are not aware of. We have mentioned it on the show already, but Eigenlayer did a very healthy contribution to creators. So I think you got 4,000 Eigen, Legendary got 2,000. I've got a certain amount, but they didn't tell me because I signed up too late and now I have to wait a little bit longer. But the value of that is actually quite significant, right? Do you want to just explain what happened there? Do you think this is something that could continue? Is there hope for creators out there?
Yeah. So right now, or whenever I took the picture yesterday, that 4,000 was worth like 14 grand, something like that. So that's, significant.
And you'd written like one or two threads, right? About Eigenlayer.
Yeah, I wrote a what the fuck is Eigenlayer breakdown of like a high level educational thing. And then I had done some other graphics on like, their token distribution, whatever, because their actual documentation was really thick. So I did some TLDR stuff occasionally. And then obviously with getting into EigenDA and shit, I got closer to some of the guys on the team. But yeah, I had no idea. I just saw that they did, hey, creators come throw in your tag and see if you're eligible. And yeah, I got 4,000 allocated to it. So, if we can encourage like trying to produce content and try to, because like it's not really so different than a lot of these marketing campaigns anyways. Thankfully here it was organic. I enjoyed it. I liked, educating, doing stuff. And then it's almost like I got a retroactive grant for doing the educational thing, which, awesome, thankful. If other teams do that, I think that's a healthier relationship than pay to shill, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
So
100%. I really like that. So just for people to know, if you, and Sam, I actually just saw your comment in the YouTube comments. If you think that you have written about EigenLayer in any way, you can still go to the specific claim site and verify your Twitter account so that they can tell you if you are eligible. And then if you are, my understanding is from checking in the Discord, you can get some type of allocation when that social verification countdown finishes in 2 days time. So there's a specific website. You can't go to the main website. Go to the main Twitter account, scroll down until you find the tweet where it says, if you've written about EigenLayer, check the thing. And there's like a specific site to go to. So that is still open and there's still about 2 days. Brett, do you want to say something to close this?
Yeah, not specific on that, but just as on the previous conversation, you can't make money directly on my nerd stuff. To be blunt about this, and I think the readers might be interested in this stuff. My intended goal is to try to get token allocations to a lot of these things by producing content. So I'm very good at doing educational content because I understand this shit. So I want to position myself closely to these protocols, and they like my content. They like me producing this stuff. I want to be able to write a fucking thread breaking down what's going on in these places, and I get token allocations. I think that's a healthy way to go about that, as opposed to like, hey, here's a couple grand, do a tweet and then do a sponsored buy or whatever. I like the token upside, so I'm trying to position myself for that.
Makes sense. I think a lot of people will want to do that for two reasons. Huge opportunity because lots of protocols have already come to market with their tokens and got this huge DAO and allocations that they're ready to give to people. And then also there are so many more coming who will need to incentivize people to create content for them. So huge opportunity for creators already. We'll cover those as we see them. Let's keep it moving. Maybe kind of gone on a little bit there. Let's get into the JP Morgan stuff. I think this article was pretty interesting. It's about the debasement trade lifting Bitcoin. This came out of a few analysts from JP Morgan, basically saying that gold has appreciated more than what they would have expected by changes in the inflation-adjusted 10-year yield. And they think that when they look at gold and Bitcoin, that they basically think that this is still a very healthy position for gold and Bitcoin, and that people will continue to like this trade. They say the debasement trade, just to give you some context, the debasement trade is a term that reflects a combination of gold demand factors which in our client conversations range from structurally higher geopolitical uncertainty since 2022 to persistent high uncertainty about the longer term inflation backdrop to concerns about debt debasement due to persistently high government deficits across major economies to waning confidence in fiat currencies in certain emerging markets and to a broader diversification away from the dollar. These are all views, it should be said, that have been expressed for years, but gold around 2,700 an ounce and Bitcoin around 60,000 give them new currency, so to speak. So a few more details here. Citing International Monetary Fund data, JP Morgan analysts say the share of the US dollar in currency reserves has fallen to a new low of 57% in the third quarter. And that, interestingly enough, has come even as China's central bank effectively paused its gold purchases since April. So you know how sometimes in this space we talk about Bitcoin dominance a lot. I guess this statistic is coming out with a kind of USD currency reserve dominance and how that number is falling. And they seem to think that gold and Bitcoin is something which will be an attractive trade for a while. Brett, it seems like you want to come in here, then I want to go to Legendary.
Yeah, this is I might sound like an idiot here. So question to the floor, like this, seeing that prompt talking about a new currency, gold versus Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin is always the equated to digital gold, whatever. I think the general thought was that like, oh, gold is at X trillion, therefore Bitcoin will get to X trillion. But I never really thought about it, and that would imply that you have net new, like doubling the amount of appetite for a gold-like resource, and that doesn't really make much sense to me. Like, if there's $13 trillion out in the universe that is seeking a gold-like asset, and if we create something that is gold-like, then wouldn't it make more sense for one to have and then it to go into the other one so that the net is the ultimate like 7 trillion, as opposed to, oh, we're just automatically going to double the demand for a gold like asset and there's going to be $28 trillion of gold demand out there? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Again,
I see what you mean.
I
So
feel kind of dumb there. But yeah.
Summarizing your question, it's something like, surely the demand for Bitcoin has to come from some of the demand for gold, because it's not possible
Yes.
for the net demand for a gold-like asset to just double.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's just like, oh, all of a sudden, like, Bitcoin's going to flip or go to that trillion number. But no, that number would have to come down because they're both seeking the same type of asset.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a
I
very
hate that
fair
I'm thinking
point.
that because that's the upside conversation. It's like, well, okay, maybe it's a little lower than we thought.
Interesting
But
point.
I don't think it's quite like one minus the other or the net of the two.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
one to one for sure, but like
you have
thought experiment.
Yeah, because you have like leverage, you have other things in the system that would effectively push the price of that particular market cap up. So yeah, I think like if for instance people are bullish on that or they want to hedge their bets, they might take a different weighting depending on risk. So I think there's like a number of factors that play into it. But ultimately, I think for me, I think my biggest concern about the whole gold comparison is what happens when like Earth starts doing asteroid mining and gold becomes less scarce. And then all of a sudden in the future, at least you have with Bitcoin, this hard cap on it's only ever going to be 21 million. It's hard coded. So the whole value proposition of gold, if we do asteroid mine and we do get a significant inflow of actual gold coming to Earth, then it's no longer scarce. But that's probably a completely divergent topic. But I don't know. That's just always in my head. Like maybe 100 years from now or like 50 years from now.
I think people are mostly thinking for 1 month to 3 months ahead, but I think it's a very fair question.
I want B-Check to do the math on how old you will be 100 years from now relative to today plus 2 days. How old am I then?
Yeah, let's steer clear of that one. Legendary.
Maybe, Brett, to go back to your question in terms of the demand, I think what's also interesting to look at is who is in demand of gold, who is in demand of Bitcoin. And traditionally, one of the largest buyers of gold are central banks. If you look at the statistics, monthly statistics on that, where is it here? Typically, 12-month average is 33 tons of gold net buys per month by central banks. 1 ton of gold is roughly 65 M. So that's quite a significant, because if we talk about 30 tons, 1 ton is 65 M, 10 or 650, it's 1.8 B per month in net purchases on average. And obviously you have countries like Turkey, India, Turkey fighting with hyperinflation, who are the strongest buyers of gold. And then you have countries like the Philippines who are taking profits and selling off 25-ish tons of gold. So that's a complete different demand. And we don't see many countries yet who say, fuck it, we don't buy gold. Turkey is not out there and saying, instead of putting, in their case, 2-point-something billion into gold, we're going to buy 2 billions worth of Bitcoin. So not only can't you translate the demand one-to-one, there's also different structure, different demographic of buyers, because the institutional buyers of gold are central banks, whereas the institutional buyers of Bitcoins are not central banks just yet, or not countries just yet, only in a very, very limited exposure for like few select countries that have been buying a bit of Bitcoin.
Interesting. Okay. What's your maybe final underlying point there, Legendary, to conclude that?
That Brett is right with his analysis on not being able to translate demand. And if anything, what I would take away from that, Morgan Stanley article, was that people still think of gold similarly as an asset class to BTC. However, that's also a point that the article is mentioning, that's not applying for ETH. Nobody thinks of ETH as digital gold in the way we think about BTC, but those asset classes are like still viewed, so gold and BTC, in a very similar way, which is something we've obviously have been known for a while, but it's a confirmation of that this picture still seems to be accurate.
Okay, I like it. Great question, Brad. Appreciate that. Hope that discussion was interesting on Bitcoin. Let's get into the headlines today. We've got a few interesting ones. Maybe we'll try to do the roundup of themes towards the end if we've got some time as well. We've got this flash loan of 25,000 ETH that bought this CryptoPunk Legendary. I think you're going to explain what on earth was going on for the highest ever recorded sale of a CryptoPunk.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen a CryptoPunk sell for 24,000 ETH, obviously ridiculously large sum that cost some attention, that got some mind share on the timeline, which was exactly the intention behind that. And it all worked out with a flash loan. Flash loans are not a new concept. The way a flash loan works is basically you can borrow money, you can borrow ETH, and you can basically do whatever you want to do with that as long as you pay it back in the same transaction. This is what constitutes a flash loan, and they've been extremely, extremely popular. In the DeFi season back in 2020, we've seen protocol exploits happening based on flash loans, where I remember there were try pools for DAI, USDC, USDT that were mispricing the stablecoin prices in there, and someone was taking a 2 mil flash loan, arbitraging that mispricing across different pools and making 500K profit within a single transaction and paying the flash loan back. So again, concept of a flash loan is you take out the loan and you pay it back within the same transaction. Otherwise, it doesn't work out and it doesn't finalize. And this is exactly what happened. And Quid has written an explainer on that. Basically, we had two contracts, contract A holding the punk, contract B holding nothing. A is listing the punk for 24,000 ETH. B is taking on a flash loan to borrow 24,000 ETH and is continuing to buy the punk, return, and the funds are being then returned, the 24,000 ETH to Balancer where the flash loan originated from, and the loan is being paid back. Again, Quid also explaining the point. If one step fails in this line of thought, the entire transaction fails, and it's as if no transaction were submitted at all, which is exactly the concept of the flash loan. So essentially nothing happened. The only thing that was paid was gas fees of $50. So what's the idea? What's the motivation behind of that? In this case, it is that contract B is also the creator of a meme coin, and it seems to be a pretty smart marketing stunt. Although not an original one, it's not the first time this has happened, to draw attention to that. And in this case, the concept is that contract B, which took the flash loan, is also deployed an ERC20 token, which is called the Kamala Harris Punk. And the contract is set to accept the highest bid for this punk after a 7-day period. Then the dev gets 10% of the token supply, 10% of the funds received from the pre-sale and the sale of the punk. The rest, so the remainder of 90%, is going to go into a Uniswap LP to create that new token pair. Basically, to sum it up, because I know it gets a bit complex with those percentage splits, it's a smart advertising for a meme coin pre-sale, and the bet there basically is that this percentage is more valuable than the price of the punk that has been quote unquote sacrificed in this experiment.
Okay. Amazing summary. Very much appreciate that. It's kind of, I don't know, I kind of debated whether we put that as a headline because, like, well, ultimately it's not a real sale. It is kind of attention grabbing, it's headline grabbing, but it's not a real thing. I thought it was maybe more interesting just to explain how the flash loan worked to people in case they didn't know. But that's where we are with that. Brad, did you have something else to say on that?
Yeah, just just kind of something that's fun, interesting. So what he was talking about there with just the atomicity of the transaction, where the whole logic has to be true, else it fails. That's a tactic you can also use to exploit games, right? Like if you think about if you flip a dice or flip a coin, right, and you make money if it lands positive, this is how they would go about it, right? You would create a transaction that says flip the coin, and then the next transaction that you would do in this bundle would be like then transfer out X amount of ETH, which that X amount would only be true if you won the previous step. And therefore you can sit there and just keep spamming this thing at the contract, and until that second one is true, which would imply a win. then that's the only time it'll process. So you'll sit there and constantly go against it. Once it's true, the actual transaction goes through, and then you actually get the funds. So you guarantee a win in that way because the entire logic path is true.
So how would I don't know, the likes of YOLO or other protocols like that protect against that kind of attack?
Yeah, you have to obfuscate it or like disconnect it so that you have to actually do it in multiple transactions, or like just add layers to it so that it can't actually be done in a single thing. But yeah, you usually have to hide it in some way, create like a layer between the two transactions such that you can't do the atomicity stuff.
Interesting. Very interesting stuff. Getting into the details there. Maybe a final point from you, Sam. I know you shared something in the private chat. Do you have anything to add here to kind of close this conversation off?
So yeah, it's not the first time it's happened. I think for me, this is probably more of a marketing play. Like I remember back in, was it last year? Do you remember Mech Minds AI? It was effectively like an NFT that was a chatbot, but what they did was a flash loan that it spiked all the volume charts on the likes of June, all these other ones, because that's exactly what they did. And it was just an insane purchase of their asset within their thing, just to bring eyes to it. And then people wrote loads of content around it just to explain it, similar to what they've done this time. So I think for me, this is kind of like a marketing play towards this Kamala Harris token thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's wash trading as a marketing ploy, right?
Yeah. Okay. Great summary. Great detail that we went into there in case people wanted to know the technicalities of what's going on. I think that was a fantastic explanation. Let's keep it moving, though, into some of the other headlines. Pretty big news from Grayscale announcing this AAVE fund. Sam, I think you'll want to just provide a little bit of a breakdown here of why this is significant and what's going on.
Yeah, so Grayscale have launched like a new fund, so the Grayscale AAVE Trust. I think this is probably significant because so AAVE is like a lending protocol that's been around since 2017. The AAVE token is used for it's kind of discounted on fees for using that protocol, and also a governance token. I think for me, the reason why this is significant is because it goes beyond the traditional like Bitcoin, ETH, those kind of assets, and probably XRP at some point. But to me, the observation that I'm looking at is like, okay, well, these are assets from like the old DeFi days that are being picked by institutions to become trusts and things like that. So I think for like, it has to have that kind of experience or the years behind it for then these institutions to get behind it and create these products. But yeah, this is now Grayscale's 20th crypto investment product. And the market cap, I mean, it did pump a little bit, but I think it was more consistent with the rest of the market. So I don't think the market's responded in a way that it's bullish on this particular news. But to me, it's just as an observation, it's just like, okay, well, they're obviously institutions are coming for these older tokens as opposed to anything new.
Interesting. Thanks for that quick breakdown on that. I'm just going to share the AAVE chart. It's definitely one of these things. I mean, I was having a conversation about AAVE with the founder the other day, and they were asking me what the FDV was. And I said it was 2 billion, which it is. It's 2.3 billion now or so. But the interesting point was like, he said it's a true 2.3 billion. True meaning it's basically fully diluted, and like everything is circulating now, that being the main point. So if you look at the chart of the last year or so, very nice ascent from around $50 up towards 150 now. But I guess maybe open question to the floor. This is the thing that will drive people crazy, I guess, is like, will these people be able to turn on a fee switch at some point? What's the benefit in buying these tokens if you cannot partake in some of the revenue or the strength?
So it does say for those that use the protocol, they do get a discount by holding the token. So I think there is that benefit.
It's meaningful value.
Yeah, and I think like if you're a big advocate of this particular protocol, then having a reasonable amount of those governance tokens, you might at some point be able to turn that fee switch on. But like we saw recently with the Uniswap discussion around the fee switch there, and the SEC kind of came after them. So I don't think we're at that stage where we can have that regulatory clarity around turning those revenue mechanisms on. But I think the older protocols like this that are, like you say, fully diluted, they then become attractive to kind of lead that charge and kind of set the precedent.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. Legendary, did you want to come in here?
Nothing to add to that. No.
Brad?
I was actually just going to start looking up the fees generated by AAVE. I mean, I think he has it exactly right. Right, you're looking at the regime change potentially coming with the presidential election, right? And the next, like, if you have all of these things that have product market fit are generating pretty decent fees, and the possibility to turn on a more direct tie between those fees and token ownership with the next administration, that's something that people are trying to position themselves for. I know Arthur has Pantera, or not Pantera, but for the
Maelstrom.
actual, was it?
Maelstrom.
No, different Arthur. I'm thinking Arthur. He's from the East. Yeah, you're thinking Arthur Hayes.
Yeah.
But he's been bull posting as the DeFi Renaissance stuff. He's been specifically bull posting AAVE, and then now he's talking about another one, which is probably going to be like Arrow on base is the one he's talking about. But just real products with real revenue and product market fit and established user bases potentially getting attracted to or gaining attraction for the next marginal buyer, which is likely to be institutional investors now that we have, the ETFs in place and people are starting to get involved, right? It's not retail right now. Anyways, you're going to think it's going to be fund managers, people who are looking to allocate capital to the industry, VCs that are raising whatever. And if they had liquid funds, they're probably going to go to something that has are a little safer than, or whatever the fuck Moodang.
Just on your point around like Aerodrome, like that's insane. Like I didn't realize until recently they've got like over $1 billion in TVL, which makes up more than half of what basis TVL is. And I think it's to do with this like wrapped Bitcoin that they're kind of integrating the DeFi there and a few other things. And it's that to me is super interesting about where the DeFi space is going with base.
Mm.
Yeah, they're crushing.
Okay, very good. I'm very attracted to the idea that these protocols which have definite product market fit but have kind of been unloved for a while as people go off and chase like highly speculative things. I'm very attracted to the idea that they get a lot more love as things get more institutionalized. I'm still wondering to what extent it needs like a regulatory stamp of approval in order to really help people make that move. But I just think they're such good products and they get so much attention and they got so much TVL that's at least a significant proportion of why people get into any coin anyway. So like they're winning the attention battle, they're winning the TVL battle as well. So like, I'm just wondering to what extent they really need any type of approval for people to really.
But do you think that like if you start seeing these tokens trending upwards, like someone knows something, because effectively that information that's kind of behind the scenes effectively kind of gets into the market, efficient market hypothesis, it starts to price it in. If you wait for that stamp of approval, you're probably going to be buying the top, like the wholesale and news event thing. So I think that foreseeing what's going to happen in the not too distant future is kind of where you can kind of make those like arbitrage opportunities, and maybe that's information arbitrage, but that's just like my observation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the Uniswap chart because I think this is helpful as part of that conversation. People obviously want that fee switch to be turned on. And I think at one point in the last year, people started to think that it might be, if I'm remembering correctly, when we were speaking about that. And, it's kind of flat, to be honest, since December last year. It did spike up to as high as 14. And maybe that was the point in time. I can't remember the dates precisely, but maybe that was the point in time where people started to like think, is the fee switch going to get turned on? And then it's kind of given back all of those gains. Yeah, I take your point. Like if you're going to make the play, you have to be before the approval for sure. Interesting. Right. I think it's a helpful conversation. Funky, your hand is raised. Put a bow on this topic for us, please, before we move on.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if they had changed anything, but AAVE used to have staking because I used to use the protocol more often back in the previous run, and it was pretty low. It was like 4-6%. So just in terms of getting some kind of additional juice on your return, that used to be an option. I haven't checked in the protocol for a while, but at least want to throw that in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, you can.
I just did the numbers, by the way. The annualized fees of AAVE right now is roughly 13% of the FDV. So that means if you're doing like price to earnings for the token itself, it's running at whatever that is times 9% or times 9. So pretty low.
Interesting. Okay. Great numbers there. Great addition to the conversation today. Going to keep an eye on the alleged DeFi renaissance because we are very connected to that. So we'll keep an eye on it. Let's hit the Web3 roundup to get you up to with everything else that's been happening in the space in the past 24 hours before we get into the final headline and little bits to close off the week. Number one, Spain's second largest bank, BBVA, plans to launch a stablecoin in 2025. We've said this multiple times. Stablecoin business, best business in the world. Everyone wants to get into it in 2024 and 2025. I expect we'll see much more of this moving forward. Next, IMF says limiting the public sector exposure to Bitcoin in El Salvador is part of their recommendation. That's an interesting little news snippet from Reuters, which I didn't see anyone else talking about. They seem to be recommending them to just slow down, not necessarily slow down with the Bitcoin, but limit the public sector exposure to it. So that's their advice anyway, in their opinion. JP Morgan analysts find a bullish impulse in gold and Bitcoin futures, but not in ETH futures. That's the kind of discussion we had already. Athena announces season 2 rewards are claimable for USD holders. If you did participate, you need to unstake the airdrop that they gave you, and that will take 7 days for you to be able to actually be able to sell if you want to sell. Next, HBO documentary claims to have cracked the true identity of Satoshi Nakamoto and says its findings will shock the world, even the US elections. It will be interesting to see who that is. Maybe we'll do some predictions on who people think it is. Pudgy Penguins hit 30 billion views on Giphy. Pretty outstanding results from the top NFT collection at the moment. Azuki announces partnership with Flashbots on Bobu Magic Show to close off the Web3 roundup. We have 9 minutes left of the show today. Maybe a couple of things to do just to bring to your attention more than anything. The price action on COBIE, which was on Solana. I think, did I say it was a 500% or 500% increase from yesterday? From what I could tell on no more than an additional tweet by Ansem, which really sent it. This kind of price action has been happening quite routinely at the moment, where certain things are just completely sending to around 10 million, 20 million, 30 million FTVs before subsiding or kind of staying in the same position. Legendary, what's your thought process here? How are you approaching memes at the moment? Is it something you're tempted by? Sounds like you might be.
It's exactly like I said at the start of the show. Don't have the time to want to spend in the trenches, rather learn swing trading, BTC, experiment with other things. Apart from the big things that are like have such a breakout velocity, like Modang. For me, for Modang, for example, when I bought, I saw on TikTok that makeup tutorials were trending, how to have basically blush like Modang, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is the time to buy this thing. But I'm not tracking when Ansem is posting something about some meme to buy that and be in the trenches. Zero interest in that.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe one observation for me, and this is maybe a cautionary thing to people. I don't know, you can take it however way you want. This is my observation, is that it feels like there's certain people that are getting in very early routinely on this stuff. And I don't know if they're so proficient at using tools like Photon or what's the other one, BullX and things like that, where they can really track these coins as they come out early and get a good sense. Or are they just literally in cahoots with each other, launching the token, getting it super early from each other, and then just selling it at a high every single time? Or just, you know, even if it's a cool 5x, 10x straight after. Brad, what's your thought on this? Like, you know, people talk about VC coins being insider things and having all these insiders dumping on you. What about the meme coin equivalent? Do you even look at it in the same way? Is it same? Is it different? What are you thinking?
Everyone on the stage, you're coming to me for meme coinery, dude. I mean,
but the specific thing about the insider thing, like, do you think about it in the same way? Is that like people will criticize all these VC coins as like, oh, these big investors are going to dump on you, don't buy them. And then I'm just getting the sense from my observation of Twitter, not necessarily observing, you know, the contracts and stuff like that. Just getting the sense that there's a lot of people who are getting in early on a lot of these things. And I don't know if it's pure skill or is it, you know, just getting in early because you're getting given the tokens or you're part of the launch process.
I'll say it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B. And that's because you have to think about how information proliferates anyways, right? So like whether or not it's intended to be like a malicious insider cabal coin, the fact is people have made connections with each other in this industry, and whenever they do something, they're going to pass it to their group chat, and their group chat's going to pass it to the call channel, and the call channel's going to pass it to the whatever. And like, even if it's not intended to be a cabal thing, like intentionally, like, okay, let's spin up a group chat with all the cool people and we're all going to make sure we buy at this exact time. It's like, if you're all shitcoining together, like routinely, weekly, monthly, weekly, daily, whatever, you're going to throw contract addresses at each other. I see them in my group chats. I don't buy any of them, or I do and I forget about it and they all go to zero. But like, yeah, like that's how information proliferates. So it does not surprise me that is that's like showing itself in both VC coins and meme coins. The cabals are different, but there's always a cabal because that's how information proliferates.
Okay, I like that point. In the end, it seems like markets trend towards this type of behavior at some point. At some point, a certain group of people, or maybe various groups of people, get a stranglehold of the market. And fair play to them, to be honest. Like, this is just the way these things go. If you specialize in a particular area, you're giving yourself a higher chance to become the prominent people in that particular area. So maybe that's part and parcel.
The Mitch guy in meme coins is the perfect example, right? Someone that may not have been someone who was getting that kind of information early on, did something in this sector, has elevated his presence to the point where like he's like seen as like the top dude or whatever, and therefore he's probably getting a bunch of this information, or he has like outsized power, so that whenever he sends something, you know, like people dive in because he's got so much clout. And like, yeah, like these natural hierarchies form in every single structure that we do because that's what humans do. And then it doesn't have to necessarily be malicious. Some of it is for sure, but it doesn't have to always be malicious. Sure. That's just how this stuff happens.
I think that's a pretty mature way to look at it. Sam, I want to go to this tweet that you just shared. Maybe you can speak to it. This is a post from Zeneca, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yes, I mean, I don't think this was necessarily meme coins, but this was just an insider discussion around how the OTC deals kind of work behind the scenes. And I think Zen made the point that actually there's a lot of this happening irrespective of whether it's meme coins. This is just kind of the nature of how things seem to operate in this space.
Do you want to explain what actually happened here then?
So this happening. Yeah, so this was so he received a message saying, "Hey buddy, what's up? I have an OTC deal you might be interested in. Just looking for some high quality accounts like yours." And then it basically gives him details around this. I think it was an AI token specifically for this. So TAI AI, TARS AI. But this particular one, so you effectively have it. It's already on the market. They're offering an OTC price at a discount. So if you work with them to kind of help push the comms around it, then you get a discounted price. And I think there is restrictions around selling and stuff like that. But yeah, he like Zen was just open and honest about it. He's like, look, guys, this is what you need to understand about what's happening behind the scenes. Like, not everything is organic. There are stuff that people are trying to engineer. So just be mindful of it.
It's in the notes section, just so people who might not be able to see this. I don't even know if it's coming across on the stream if you're watching clearly enough. In the notes section, it says, any malicious liquidation would void future tokens 3K.
You must sell respectfully. You have to fill out the form.
So the opposite of selling respectfully is called malicious liquidation. We've got to use that terminology moving forward. Let's just check the other notes so you know what else is banned if you're going to participate in this type of thing. Actively pushing news chart, not too often, but just when required, if not followed, will void future tokens. I'm trying to make sense of that as I'm reading it.
So if you don't chill the ticker, you won't get your future tokens.
It's a slow release, yeah.
And then also, people who stake can receive bonus during the cliff period, evaluated over time. Okay, so that's just trying to encourage staking. And then maybe the final point that people need to know when these deals are going down, we need to move fast in the next 12 hours. So let me know as soon as you read. Obviously, people, when they're trying to do these deals, trying to get to close the deal as soon as you can, because ultimately nothing's ever done, and nothing's ever a done deal until it's literally signed and the money's been transferred. So interesting stuff. Very interesting insight from Zeneca. Thanks for bringing that up, Sam. I think that's helpful as part of the conversation, whether it's to do with meme coins, VC coins at the moment, and just trying to trade these things where there may be people who are in before you. Brad, did you want to have a final point on this?
Yeah, this is actually totally separate. I want to make sure we get it before the show's over. I'm saying that Bitcoin reveal thing is going to be a giant nothing burger because it's humans involved. And if someone actually knew something materially interesting and or like crushing or impacting about Satoshi and it got to the point of making a movie, that shit would have got out. Like someone would have leaked that thing way ahead. So like it's going to like brace for disappointment is all I'm saying.
Okay. Sammy, Bitcoin Satoshi prediction?
Well, I'd actually be concerned if for that person if it is revealed, because if you've got all these nation states potentially putting Bitcoin in reserve, it then becomes if you know something or you maybe have access to those old wallets, then that could be seen as a bit of a threat. So I'd be a little bit concerned if that was true.
I thought you were going to say, you'd be concerned
for their life, probably. That's my point. I'd be concerned for their life.
I think it should be one of these agreed national secrets for everyone. Like it should be top level CIA, put it in an envelope and no one's allowed to disclose it forever. It would just ruin everything if it actually came to light. Legendary, final take on this. Satoshi prediction / what do you think? Should it ever be revealed, even if someone knows?
Probably will be revealed post-mortem once that creator is dead, once enough time has passed. Or if someone has intelligence on that, then it's rather an intelligence agency than HBO. No offense to HBO, I love HBO, but I just agree with Brett. It's a big nothing burger.
Okay, there we go. Guys, that's the end of the show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. We did it every single day this week, and we will do it every single day next week, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X, live on YouTube, and you can catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday. Thanks to Legendary, Brett, and Sammy on stage. Thanks to everyone on YouTube and on Twitter. Take care. Have a wonderful day. See you next week. Bye-bye.